Hello and welcome to our third episode of Southeast Ohio Sports Talk. I'm Ben Spicer along with Kevin Colley here with the Portsmouth Daily Times. And thank you guys so much for watching our first two episodes. We had a lot of support, so I just wanted to take some time out to say that. So on this third episode, we're going to preview several different teams from several different leagues, and we're going to start with Ironton, a team that's always consistent under their head coach Mark Vass. And just taking a look at their schedule, they've got some tough games. Russell and Ashland, two teams that they lost to last season, and then of course Wheelersburg to open the season up, and Portsmouth as well. So how do you think Ironton stacks up in the OVC?
Just like always, they're always going to be right there in the top two or three teams. Portsmouth and Chesapeake will obviously be their toughest bouts in conference, and then obviously, like you said, Russell and Ashland and Berg are interesting tests, especially the first 4 weeks of the year out of conference. Ironton always seems to handle those battles really well. The thing about Ironton, they started off the year, the past 2 or 3 years, going into the gun a little bit. I feel like they need to stick with the T throughout the 10 weeks. That's just what their trademark is. That's what their personnel suits them the best at. I see what they're trying to do with the gun. If you look at Russell, Ashland, and Berg, arguably their weakest points in each of the three teams right now is the secondary, especially in Russell's case. Russell lost a lot from the secondary. Nick Conley, a 1,000-yard rusher all 4 years of his high school career, and a big playmaker back there at corner and then linebacker some. Losing him back there is huge. But to me, it's more important to stick with your trademark and what your players are best at rather than trying to exploit the weaknesses of the defense. Russell, Berg, and Ashland are still strong enough in the secondary, even with their losses, to offset what Ironton could have to be able to bring from the gun. They need to stick with the T. And if they stick with the T, I think they can definitely finish in the top two in the OVC. I think Portsmouth will present big-time problems on the line. And the last game of the year, I had the slight edge going to Portsmouth, even though it's at Tanks. But Ironton will still be in the 7-8 win group this year. I see no doubts about that. Eric Rico and Tanner Wilson are very talented back there in the backfield, and they bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, you talk about that wing T formation, and they have some weapons back in that wing T, and Garrett Carrico and as well as Tanner Wilson. Wilson's going to play linebacker as well as fullback for Ironton, and you see from his highlights he's a great athlete at linebacker,
yes,
and as well as running the football. And then when you look at Carrico, he's a great defensive back and a great running back as well in that offense for Ironton. So interesting to see how Ironton can do this season, but moving forward, we're going to talk about Waverly in the SOC. Chris Crabtree, the head coach.
Yeah.
They went 9-2 last season. That's their best record since 2007.
Yeah.
And I went to their media day. Chris Crabtree was really high on what this program has in store. Let's hear what he has to say.
I mean, you have a season like that and the excitement in the community and everything. I mean, obviously it's kind of set the tone, I think, for what we want to accomplish this year. I mean, it was one of those things to get there last year to process a lot of hard work and determination, and it just kind of leaves that taste in the mouth that we want to get there again. We want to work hard, and our kids have been working hard, and we went a long way in the off season to try and set the attitude of we got to earn it. It's not just going to happen again because it happened last year, but we got to go out and earn it, and our kids have done a pretty good job of doing that up to this point.
But when you look at their schedule for this year, of course they've got that big first game against Piketon, their rival. They beat them pretty badly last year, so Piketon's going to be ready for them. We'll talk about the Red Streaks later on in the show. And then that game, of course, with Wheelersburg. Can they get over the hump and maybe compete to win their conference this season?
I think, first of all, what Chris Crabtree has done with the Waverly football program, best coaching job in the area, bar none, in my opinion. This program, I watched them 2 years ago in 2014 against Wheelersburg, playing Berg at home, and they struggled to even get a first down. I think they got 2 first downs the entire game. Berg shut them out, controlled the tempo start to finish. That was just 2 years ago, and they had been improving a little bit, but we're still pretty far off of where Wheelersburg was. Boy, the last 2 seasons have been a huge turnaround, and when you talk to Chris Crabtree, it's evident he's got his stuff together. I mean, he's organized, he's confident in what he does, and that showed last year with the 9-2 season. I mean, they have Clayton Howell. He was impressive as a freshman, getting some time in against Wheelersburg, but he's obviously taken the next steps in his progression. He's more athletic. His arm from baseball and football as a good two-sport athlete has gotten better. They had some explosive athletes that they lost, but with Drew Quiswasser back there running the football, I really think 9 wins is a reasonable expectation. I feel bad for Waverly because they're going to be in Division 4 playing against Caring Alter. That's such a tough draw, but Chris Crabtree and Waverly will make the best of that, and I think the edge and the rivalry game between Waverly and Piketon will go to Waverly. I still, even with all what Piketon brought back, I think Waverly has more than enough coming up. They have a very, very promising 7th and 8th grade group that's moving up to 8th and 9th, and they're going to be a tough out. They could be the team to beat in 4 or 5 years down the road. Waverly's going to be really tough in a lot of sports.
You talk about Clayton Howe a little bit. Let's go to Oak Hill now, and the Oaks have a good one themselves, and Caleb Johnson. So taking a look at Oak Hill's schedule, they went 5-5 last season under Nathan Dugan. Looking at their schedule, Chesapeake and Rock Hill, 2 out-of-conference teams that are going to be tough for Oak Hill. But how do you think they're going to do this season, the Oaks?
Caleb Johnson, as we know, like Clayton Christensen before him, coming off an ACL tear. Clayton Christensen, bless his heart, tried to rush it back and ended up tearing it a second time and ended up missing pretty much a year and a half of football. What Nathan Dugan was so high on Caleb Johnson about was working hard but not overworking himself, staying within the confines of what the doctors were telling him and rehabbing the ACL injury appropriately, taking the correct amount of time to rest it and do the necessary rehab work. And he's going to be back ready to go week 1. They've actually put him through some hitting drills. They haven't red-shirted him. They said they were going to let him take some hits and see how he was doing. Outside of him, there was a lot of talent, especially the guy I look at is Carson Russ. I mean, the guy was expected to be in the starting defensive tackle rotation on the line. They moved him to outside linebacker for the scrimmage against the Nelsonville York. He had 3 sacks in 10 plays, reps-wise. He could be a guy that breaks out and has an all SOC 1 type season. I look for Oak Hill to be again in the top 2 or 3 in the SOC 1 and give East a big challenge when they meet later on in the year. It's going to be a fun SOC 1 to discuss, as you'll see later on with Eastern for sure.
When you look at Caleb Johnson, he has a lot of success with that play action. So I think the key for Oak Hill this season is to establish that running game and set him up in play action situations where he can succeed. So moving on to a team that's pretty new in the SOC, the Eastern Eagles, and their coach Scott Tomlinson. Let's take a look at their schedule this year. They've improved over the last 2 seasons, and it looks like they're going to be set up for success this year as well. Their first 3 opponents went a combined 9-21 last year. Millersport was just 1-9, and Claremont Northeastern 2-8. And then the last opponent they'll take on, Manchester, they went 1-9 last year too. So you met with Coach Tomlinson, and what are your expectations for the Eagles this season?
They'll have finished with a winning record, be top 3 in SOC 1. Dalton Thompson, will start with him. Has 7 Division 1 offers, including Iowa State, Central Florida, among others. Robert Morris in that mix too. He's just a big-time player, big-time run blocker. He's a run grader. I mean, just annihilates opponents from the line. He's possibly the best, other than Blaine Scott, he's definitely the best college lineman. Right now, development-wise, 6'4", 295. He's looking really, really strong, really, really good. And they've added some transfers on that line that could be really good. They average on the line 6'1" and about 252 right now on the line for a Division 6 school playing SOC 1 football. I mean, that's incredible. Then they added players that took a year off last year from a 5-5 team that could have helped that team have a winning record, and they're back. So they have Parker Clemens, who's going to possibly start QB or split reps with Cole Hayslop, and you have Logan Clemens, a freshman wideout, O.C. Jennings, all those guys right there in the mix. And then last but not least, Cody Weaver, a 6'2" tight end who they've been raving about in practice, saying he's catching everything that's been thrown to him. First year he's ever played football, he's going to start tight end and defensive end. Wow. It's a team that has a lot of promise. I think they could win 7 games. They've obviously improved every year. I love what he's done with the program. The numbers are at 30 for a D6 school, very good for a third-year varsity football program. He's hoping to hit 40. They continue having the success like this, I say they could go over 40, and I think they'll have 6 or 7 wins this year easily. East and Oak Hill will be tough hills to climb because they've been there and done that, and they have older players not in first-year varsity experience, but overall this is an Eastern football team that's very, very promising on paper for sure.
And moving on, when you look at Symmes Valley, their head coach Rusty Webb seems like he's been there for a long time.
Yes.
He knows what he's doing with the Vikings. Take a look at their schedule. And they struggled a bit at times last season, but we'll get to that here in just a second. Their non-conference games, they play Piketon from West Virginia, who they beat 32-0 last year, and then Fairfield Christian, a tough one. They went 7-3. We talked about Manchester in the Eastern preview. They struggled last year. So some winnable games for the Vikings, but they've got to get that offense going. I mean, in their wins, they had 39 points per game, and they were shut out 3 times in losses. So they really struggled at times. And interesting enough, when you look at their team picture, that's Frankie Hunter. She's playing defensive tackle, and I did say she is going to play defensive tackle for Symmes Valley. A cool story there. Yes. Rusty Webb said it was the first time he's ever had a player come out in makeup to the team pictures. Symmes Valley is also going to have a quarterback battle between Kiefer Wilson and Jack Leith. Do you think Symmes Valley can rebound after that season they had last year?
I still think it'll be a struggle. I mean, Rusty Webb has been around a long time, but there isn't a whole lot you can do offensively from that standpoint when you only have 26 players on your roster for one, and then two, they're really, really young and inexperienced players. I see them possibly finishing 5th in the SOC 1. I think they will beat Notre Dame. They'll have a tough time with Green. Maybe 5th, possibly next to last. I just don't really see the kind of situations like he had in 2011 where he took the team to 8-3 record and a playoff berth. I don't see that out of this team. I will say I do admire Frankie Hunter for playing. This is the second time in the 4 years that I've covered sports, or 4 years I've seen sports in South County area, closely followed it, where we've had a girl playing in the SOC 1 level. Destiny Wallace did play also at defensive tackle position for Green back in 2014. I think that's neat that they're trying to instill passion in the sport for females. I mean that's great. I think if there's opportunities there, more power to them. I think that's excellent. Maybe she'll play a big part on the line. That'd be great, a cool story to see, no doubt.
For sure, Coach Webb says that she's doing a great job with the team so far and that she helps create space for her teammates at that defensive tackle position. So she's definitely playing a role with the Vikings.
Yes.
It's going to come down to that quarterback position, though, and getting things figured out there for Coach Webb. For the Piketon Red Streaks now, they're looking for a quarterback as well in the SVC conference. They had a big season last year, just a few bounces away from being a great season. They finished 7-3, but they lost 2 games in the conference by just 1 point. Let's take a look at their schedule this year. Of course, we mentioned Waverly earlier on in the show. They've got a big matchup at Valley as well. So Piketon looking pretty good. And let's see what Coach Tyler Golian has to say about his Red Streaks this year.
Every year it's a new and it's a fresh, and it's just exciting to see what you got, to see kids grow as individuals, to grow into young men. It's just an exciting time, and it's kind of like the day before Christmas, you just that excitement of what you're going to get, what you're going to see. So we're excited about the season, and like where our program's heading. Just got to keep building on what we've done in the past.
So we talked about them replacing their quarterback. They do have some weapons on offense. Running back Zane Barker figures to play a big part. He's very quick and fast. He's going to be able to make some plays out of the backfield for Piketon. They'll definitely need it, looking to replace that quarterback. And then you look at Luke Nichols, who's going to play wide receiver as well as defensive back and do it on both sides of the ball. We've seen him make plays there as well. Going to need to replace some big guys. And then on the offensive line, you talk about big guys. Colton Penwell, maybe mention him as one of those guys in our area that's going to have a lot of success. Yes. He's a big guy, and he should play a big part on that offensive line for Piketon. I expect them to have a pretty good season. Coach Golian's been there for a while as well. He knows what he's doing with the Red Streaks.
Right. He's been there for over a decade, and this team is starting to show the foundation he's tried to build there. They went to the playoffs in 2012 and finished 9-3 that season in Division 4, beat Medford, lost St. Clairsville. This looks like a team that will be in that discussion for a playoff berth. They're in Division 5, and they're playing SVC, playing up against Unionota, who's D4 numbers. Zane Trace is, D5. Westfall's a good D5 traditionally in the conference. I think they could go improve on that record to 8-2. That they'll have a tough time with Waverly, and I don't know if the Unioto or Westfall St. Trace games, those games have always been, in the SBC race, sort of wacky. Paint Valley is also, even as a D7 has played, or D6 has played a role into the SBC title race. It's usually between those 4 or 5 every season. But I see Piketon going 8-2 or 9-1. I think they'll lose the opening game against Waverly, and they could run the table after that and make the playoffs.
High expectations for Piketon, not only from us, but Coach Golian really likes where the program is going as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our 3rd episode of Southeast Ohio Sports Talk. Next week, Kevin, we'll actually be previewing some games, so make sure you stay tuned for that, and we'll also have some special guests joining the program. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching. As always, for Kevin Colley, I'm Ben Spicer.